Thanks everyone for joining us for another WKS Zoom podcast. This time I'm with Barney Kenny. How are you doing?
I'm very well. I'm very well. Sat in sunny Cotswolds this evening, so life could be worse.
Okay. Yes, it's yeah. Well, I'm down in Penzance, and it's just a little overcast here. It's been lovely all day, but overcast now.
Yeah.
Do you want to start off by telling viewers sort of how you got into music in the first place?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I've been a gigging working musician for best part of 10 years now. Started playing when I was 14, 15. Really into sort of Texas blues rock actually as a teenager, but really quite broad in terms of what I was listening to. But what I was playing at the time was sort of your classic strat shuffle stuff. But as soon as I moved down to Cornwall, I got way more into my folk stuff because I'd always been very into folk. Like I'd grown up listening to sort of the likes of Kate Rusby and Cara Dillon and the more trad Anglo-Celtic side of things, and I got really into that more acoustic style of playing. Living down by the sea in Falmouth, it really sort of heavy inspirational
Mm.
place to be, as a lot of people I know are still down there, still living and working down on the south coast down there. But yeah, I got more into the folk side of things when I was about 18, 19, and I formed a band called Dust Bowl Children with some friends at university, which focused really heavily on lap steel guitar. So I started
Okay.
playing the Weissenborn style, which is like a Hawaiian style of lap steel guitar, hollow body, but played with a bar slide. And I was playing that on a kind of through amps and just basically using tube screamers just to bring out more of a warmth and a grittier tone to that instrument. So we kind of were doing a really rootsy, heavy blues rock fusion on this really nice sort of weird sounding slide guitar. And that did us really well for sort of 3 years. We did a lot of gigging around um, Devon, Cornwall, and then up to sort of Wiltshire and a few London shows. But yeah, hooked us up with some really great guys like Sam Green, Willie and the Bandits, Grizzly and the Grasshoppers. Some great blokes all playing that sort of slide surf
Mm.
root style. So lovely scene to be a part of, really. And in my early 20s, I moved up to Dartmoor and I formed a folk duo with a guy called Ollie Wilden, who's an incredible fiddle player, a great guitar player. And we fused our love of writing about the Southwest into we did 2 albums under a band name of Tamar, because we sort of thought that was quite an apt name. He was living in Devon, I was coming from Cornwall at the time, so it was kind of bridging the two influences. And yeah, we wrote 2 albums about the Southwest way of life, really. I was using dobro and 12-string guitar, and Ollie was playing fiddle and guitar. So it was a real nice blend of sort of Americana and very rootsy folk stuff. Because at the time we were playing with Seth Lakeman and Nick Jones and Mad Dog McRae. So we were hanging out with all those guys sort of every night of the week, really.
Right.
So big influence on what we were doing at the time. And when I moved up from Devon, I went up to the Lake District and lived there for a few years. And I went solo for the first time. So I was then trying to do all these songs that I'd written and played with bands or duos for the best part of 10 years on my own in a solo set. So it was basically me with a 12-string guitar and my lap slide trying to do arrangements of these what had been quite big songs with full arrangements, but taking them to a solo place
Mm.
with one instrument at a time, which was a good challenge, and it worked really well for me because I've learned how to do a solo set with those songs, and then how we can work on them in the band. So
Right.
yeah, that's kind of got me to where I am now, almost 10 years
Brilliant.
later. Yeah.
Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. So where can people get hold of your music then?
So it depends which way you kind of lean in your musical taste. If you like something that's a lot heavier and rockier, then you can look for the Dust Bowl Children, which is we've got one EP out and one single. The EP is called Hollow Lands. It's on Spotify. It's on all the standard streaming sites. It's the album artwork. It's kind of like a tweed cover, and that's 5 tracks with one instrumental, and it's all either heavy lap steel dance rock or like a really big kind of epic prog sound thrown into sort of 5 tracks. Tamar is a lot more trad folk, so really nice acoustic music with harmonies, vocal harmonies, and storytelling songs. There's 2 whole albums of that. So the first album was called A Long Way From Home, and the second album is called A Letter From the West. And again, they're both on Spotify and they're available to stream. There's more of us on YouTube, but the albums are all on Spotify and Amazon Music, Google Play, etc. And I've actually, this time last year, released my first solo work, which is called The Minstrel Boy. And it's a 5-track EP with 4 original songs and 1 instrumental, again, funnily enough. The instrumental is a reworking of the song or the tune, The Minstrel Boy. But I've added a collaboration with a fantastic Uilleann pipe player, so Irish pipes. Her name's Catherine Ashcroft, and she's been on tour with Riverdance for a long time, but she guests on 2 tracks on that EP. One of the songs was written basically with the pipes in mind quite a long time before I recorded it, so it was really nice to bring that to fruition. But every track's got full band arrangements of all the songs, so it's really nice for me to have full creative control as a solo artist for the first time. But yeah, that's called The Minstrel Boy, and yeah, Spotify is the best place to find that. The front cover is like an old photograph of a soldier, and you can find that just by typing my name in.
Fantastic, absolutely brilliant. So what's your creative sort of process like then for, say
yeah,
random track? Just
I mean, I am not a prolific songwriter. I don't write a lot of songs, so it takes me quite a long time to do a song start to finish. Like literally can take years for me to start a song and finish a song. I don't like rush through them at all. So that's why it's taken so long for me to do a solo release, is because some of my songs take a long time to sort of come out of my head and into the world. But I think writing is, I don't ever try and force anything out. I let it come very like naturally and organically. Because I'm not I'm a professional musician all the time. I've got a whole other like life and career that I do on the side, so it's not like I can focus everything all the time on the music. But when I do, I'm always much more creative when I've been doing a run of gigs or I've been doing a little tour. That's when I'm at my most sort of creative. But if a story that I read really jumps out, then I can probably see the story in my head and try and condense it into 3.5, 4 minutes, which is normally the challenge for me, is trying to keep a song more on the 4-minute than the 6-minute side of things, because I could do 6-7 minutes if I wanted to, but that's far too self-indulgent. But a lot of my inspiration has always come from sort of family tree stories, or I never write about something that's completely fabricated. There's always something either consciously or subconsciously influencing songwriting. So as I say, I normally would write with other people. So I would bring the sort of guitar arrangement and the lyric side of things, and I'd put that on top of what was already there. So building off someone else's stuff is much more of I'm much more comfortable arranging and working with an existing product than sort of creating something out of nowhere. But yeah, I think I go through cycles of writing, and they're very, very, very long intervals between. So it can be, as I said before, like it can be literally a year, and I'd probably do like 1 or 2 songs a year sometimes. It's crazy. But then when I do write, I'm writing maybe 3 at a time. But
Right.
I've got, and as I'm sure a lot of writers have always got lots of songs on the side that are just not done. And that's where I am at the moment. I've got probably an album's worth of half done songs, which is possibly like worst position to be in, because you just can't finish them. And I'm just not sure where to take them at the moment. So I'm just waiting for the inspiration to hit.
Okay. Wow.
As you say, lockdown's been very hard because there's no inspiration from the world, because you're stuck. You're not going anywhere. No one's experiencing anything. And that was something I've realized whilst being locked down, is that you need to be in the world to get that. Well, I do anyway. I need to be out seeing people, meeting people, going places, so I can get a feel for something and then write about it. I can't sort of sit here and look out the window and go, oh, that's a really nice bird, I'm going to write about that. Like, I need to be out and doing stuff. So
all the interacting and all that.
Yeah. I'm not a particularly like hippie or earthy person, but I do think you need to be out there and feeling what's going on to then take it further.
Yeah. So you mentioned collaboration and that sort of stuff. So if you had a chance to collaborate with anybody, past or present, who would you really most likely, who would you want to go for?
Oh, man. I mean, it's I've not been asked that before. There's so many players that I would look up to and try and emulate.
What about your ideal band then? How, if you could have your ideal band?
I'll take it sort of genre by genre. Maybe it might be better. Like if I was playing in the full band, like an electric band setup, I think in terms of like a roots band, maybe I'd be looking at someone like Ben Harper is really cool for the slide stuff. But again, if I was thinking about, I think Mark Knopfler would be brilliant, because his writing is so heavily folk orientated in his solo work. Like he's a fantastic collaborator in himself, but his storytelling plus his guitar work is a lovely collaboration of folk and electric guitar playing and blues work, that it all just sits so nicely. But I mean, like, everybody wants to play with SRV. I think Double Trouble is probably the best trio that I can think of that has ever been. I think that whole first couple of albums with those three players, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Tommy, and Chris on the drums, that's just so killer. And the sounds they were getting from 3 instruments is something I really would love to try and emulate. In the folk world, I'd love to do songs that I could sing with a female singer. I really like working with female voices. I think Alison Krauss has got just like, where do you start with a voice like that? And again, like Cara Dillon, I've never heard her put a note wrong live or on a record. Players like Mike McGoldrick just blow my mind every time I hear him play. Jerry Douglas, like they're the kings. They're the kings of what they do. And having seen them live, it's even better seeing it done in front of you than it is on video.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just hundreds of players, and a lot of the guys that I've hung out with in the past, just on the ad hoc, like at a festival, at a session in the pub. There's some incredible players on the circuit that are, they get the recognition, but I think you don't have to, in the Southwest specifically, you don't have to look too far to find someone that is actually world class.
Yeah, no, fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So, what's the best sort of bit of advice you've been given then? If you think back.
uh, I think when you're so young on the scene, you think that everything needs to happen like instantly and quickly. It all has to just, you have to grab it whilst you're young. You have to get it done before you're 25. And it's like,
Mm, mm,
I remember being 18, 19, 20, 21, thinking, oh, it's not happening yet. Like, we're not getting signed, we're not getting picked up. Like, what we're we doing wrong. And I think, like seeing people find their success and hitting their stride later now is really a quite sort of not fulfilling or refreshing, but it's nice to see people sort of hitting the big time, like
yeah, yeah.
doing really well for themselves, sort of in their 30s now. That's really nice. And I think, like, as opposed to advice, it's more learning from like looking at what's happening to people that are playing your circuit that
Mm,
are 5-10 years ahead. I mean, my mate Joe Francis for Winter Mountain is doing great stuff at the moment, and like, I've hooked up with him 2 or 3 times over the last year or so, just to sort of chat and hang out, and trying to book him a gig here and there or playing festival. And like, he's sort of, for me, he's really good embodiment of, like, you don't have to be like smashing it
mm.
from when you're like young. Like, he's really come a long way as an artist, but he's so sort of humble and modest. But he has the air of someone that's a lot older than he is. And I really look up to Joe, actually. Like, he's a fantastic player. He's got an amazing voice. And if no one's come across him, you should really check out Winter Mountain. They're an incredible band, but Joe's a brilliant
S-
writer as well. Yeah,
Superb.
don't rush anything, I
Yeah.
think.
Okay.
Where I was
Nice
going.
one. So what's next then for you? You know, when we come out of lockdown, what's on the cards?
Well, so this time last year, me and my partner actually took over a failing pub, and it's a bit of a sob story, really. We had 2 weeks to turn this pub round and redecorate and refit it, and we did it in just over 2 weeks. And our opening day was the day that the first lockdown started. So we'd spent sort of 6 months prepping and moving from the north to the south, getting everything sorted out to open a new bar, like a music bar, and we didn't get open till July. And then obviously we were running it under COVID laws, so we
Mm,
ran it for 4 months until the second lockdown, and we've been shut since the 4th of November. And obviously we're basically in April now. So for us, this lockdown since November has been longer than the first one by almost twice as long. So we're looking to open up in 2 weeks. So I run a pub basically on
yeah, yeah.
the side of it. So there's not a lot of time, but it's really nice that literally yesterday I've started booking gigs in and having our weekly music nights booked in again. So it would be so nice not to have to cancel nearly 100 shows this year.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, for me, it's quite difficult as a musician, because a lot of the gigs that I, I think, especially from a festival point of view, this year there's been a huge slash in festivals, and last year. So if half the festivals are up and running, then they will be rolling their gigs to artists that they had booked for last year. And then basically the turnover and the reusing of artist lineups is really hitting me fairly hard,
Mm,
because not only did I miss out on all the gigs from February till December last year, I'm now missing them probably for the rest of this year due to backlog.
right.
So I can't see myself actually getting out there and gigging until maybe this time next year. Not through lack of trying, just through bookings diaries being rammed with a backlog of dates to fill.
Mm,
But it's always tough getting gigs, and I'm finding it now, like, it's still, even with all the experience, like 2 tours, a solo album, 2 duo albums, band work, like getting gigs is so hard. It's so hard. And even getting little festival slots, it's after 10 years, it's so hard. And it's just so I'm independent. I'm not signed. I'm not on a booking roster. It's just me. And you know, when you send out work that you've worked on for a year and you send it to a booking agent and they don't reply, and then you send it to a management company, you get nothing. You know, it's you have to be so resilient in not in the music industry, but I think especially at the moment when everyone can be a musician and everyone's a folkie and everyone does this, everyone does that. Like to cut through the to break into, not even to break out, but just to get from there to having someone to book your gigs, or not even be signed, just to take it to a booking agent. It's like it's really really hard graft to get noticed and to get people on your side. So it's just a bit of a vicious cycle. If you can't get the gigs and you can't get the festivals, it's like, well, what do I do now? Like I can record, do all this, but like, you know, I've recorded this EP that's got a full band. It's a really big fusion EP, and I'm like, here it is, take it. Like I can do this, and it's and nothing happens still. And you're like, man, if you can't get out there and at least play in front of people, you don't really stand too much of a chance, because you're not going to get noticed in a live scenario, and you're not getting picked up in from a promotion side of things. So yeah, it's graft, man. Like it's really tough, and there's a lot of people feeling it, feeling the pinch. I think when you lose a year of momentum, you're not even back one step. You're back from like you've worked to get yourself to there, and then it drops off, and it's like I'm gonna have to start again here, because everyone's either they've forgotten about me or they've lost interest in what I was doing. And this isn't me. This is like speaking about quite a lot of people that that I know. They're like, I've just lost the momentum where I was going with things. Like everything's dropped off, and I have to start again. So we'll see what the year brings. But personally, I can't see myself back to doing weekly gigs until at least next year, which is a tough thing to have to think about, because I really miss it. Really miss it.
You mentioned. Sorry, you mentioned your public house, the one you owned. So music, you said, was going to be in the pub. Is that the theme that you've got there? What's the name of the pub and where is it?
So for those of you that know up this neck of the woods, we're in a town called Malmesbury, which is just outside of Bath, Swindon. It's kind of between Bath and Swindon. So we're just off the M4. And we've always, me and my partner, we're big into our music. Abby's from the north, so she's a real big sort of Manchester indie fan, and right from the southwest. So I've sort of brought the folk rootsy element of what we do down here, and it's always been a big part of what we wanted to do is music, and so we tried so hard to do it with the social distancing, but it's next to impossible to put on a pub gig with social distancing. So we've had to knock it on the head until start of July, end of June, start of July.
Yeah. What's the name of the pub then, mate?
It's it's called the Rose and Crown. So it's a typical Cotswold pub name. You can find us on Facebook if you search Rose and Crown Malmesbury. That's MALMESBURY. We've got a really good Facebook following, and there's weekly events, there's gigs, open mic sessions, quizzes, loads of stuff. So if you're this,
superb,
come in and maybe come in after the 17th of May when you can actually be in the bar as opposed to sitting in the rain in the garden. But,
yes,
it's good. It's really good fun. It's really good fun when it all works. It's really good.
Superb. Right, final question for you, mate. Is there anybody you'd like to thank for you being here musically now?
My dad has always been the one that's been a bit of the inspiration for why I do what I do. He's always been the one to push me towards doing what he can see that I love doing the most. I used to roadie for him when he was in a band, and they do all the pub circuit. So I was raised on sort of old man rock and roll from when I was sort of 12, really, like going out and doing the gigs with him. He got me into he got me into electric guitar, but Dad's also like a seriously big into his folk and his blues as well. So then when he started spinning folkier stuff, I got right into that. And he actually found the course at university for me. So if I hadn't have listened to him and gone there, I wouldn't have met all these amazing people and pushed me towards where I am now. So yeah, Dad's definitely the biggest supporter. Always has been. He still stands by the fact that he's never seen me do a gig where something hasn't gone wrong or the instruments haven't worked. So he's really hanging in there for the day where I do a whole set without something breaking or crackling or running out of battery.
Superb, mate. Superb. Listen, thank you so much, mate, for the interview.
Don't worry.
Fascinating interview. And good luck. Good luck. You know,
I'll be down to Penzance as soon as I can.
Yeah, well, I'll probably see you first up your way because my son lives in Bath. So,
wonderful.
You know, when we get the shackles released, then we can come on. You know, yeah.
Lovely, yeah, do. That'd be great. All
right. Well, thanks very much, mate, and we'll chat soon.
Brilliant. Thanks, man.
Cheers.